Hi everyone! We are going to continue with our review package and we're going to look at integer operations. And there's that little T there, which means we have a toolkit page to start with. So we'll pop over to the toolkit and we'll do this integer operations toolkit. Now, when we talk about, we call them integer operations, but really these rules apply to any number you work with: decimals, fractions, integers, which is integers are like the counting numbers, positive and negative counting numbers. But these rules always apply. Okay, no matter what you're doing, even if you're using letters, variables, which we'll get into this year, the rules still apply. So the first set of rules you have to memorize. Okay, I'm not big on memorization. You'll see as this course goes on, there are lots of things like I will try and get you to understand so that you can figure it out again if you don't remember. But there are some things you just straight up have to memorize, like the area and perimeter formulas that we looked at before. Those you just have to memorize. These integer rules you just have to memorize. So these ones you probably do know these. When you multiply a positive times a positive, you get a positive. Actually, as I say that, I realize you might not, because last year was very strange and people didn't get taught everything that, should have actually happened. And it's nobody's fault. We just have to go on with it. So a positive times a positive is a positive. That's how you've been doing multiplication since grade 3 or something. A negative times a negative is also a positive. A positive divided by a positive gets you a positive answer, and a negative divided by a negative gets you a positive answer. When the signs are different, you get negative results. So a positive times a negative is a negative number, a negative times a positive is a negative number, and it's exactly the same for the division questions. And there's all kinds of things you can do to remember these. My favorite, which is not cool as a teacher, but it's, I'm a human being, so this works for me. When a good thing happens to a good person, that's a good thing. When a bad thing happens to a bad person, we're okay with that. That's not terrible. But when a good thing happens to a bad person, that kind of sucks. And when a bad thing happens to a good person, that definitely sucks. So that's a negative outcome. So if you need something to help you remember this, there's lots of others, but that's my favorite. Okay, another important thing is if there is an even number of negative signs, so that little symbol there where I go the negative sign and then VE, that means negative, okay? So if there's an even number of negative signs, your answer is positive. Okay, let's do an example here. If I have -2 times -3 times -4 times -1, this pen is terrible today. -1. Well, if I go -2 times -3, that gets me +6 times -4 times -1. So 6 times -4 is -24, and then that's times -1, that's +24. You can actually think of it as the negatives pair up, and anytime you have a pair of negatives, they make a positive. Okay, so if you've got an even number, your answer is positive. If you have an odd number of negative signs, your answer is negative, because you can't pair them up evenly and there's one left over at the end. Okay, those ones you have to memorize. Okay, now when we talk about adding integers, we have to think about this a bit. Okay, there's no memorization of this because it depends what the numbers are. Okay, when you add two numbers with the same sign, you get more of the same. Right? That makes sense. So if you go 6 plus 2, Well, I have 6 pluses and 2 more pluses, positives. So I have 8. They're all positive. Or if I have -6 and I add -2, well, I had some negatives and then I added some more negatives. So everything I have is negative. I have a whole bunch of negatives and I have -8. Okay? When you add two numbers with different signs, which do you have more of? That gives you the sign of the answer. Okay? And then you subtract the numbers, and that gives you the number of the answer. So let's do some examples. So if I have -6 plus 4, okay. So I have more negative, oops. So my answer is negative. And then I go 6 minus 4, and that equals 2. So my answer is -2. Okay? If I have -2 plus 3, I have more positives, so my answer is positive. And 3 minus 2 equals 1, so my answer is +1. Okay? Now, we don't need to write the plus. We just write that as 1. Mathematicians are lazy. We don't write anything more than we have to. So we don't write the plus sign. The plus sign is implied. Okay. I want you to think about this if we have a number line. So when I in the classroom, I have a vertical number line on the wall, and it goes like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Okay, so if I do, oh, let's go back down here to -6. If I'm at -6 and I'm adding 4, I'm starting at -6, which is here, and I'm adding 4, I'm going up 4. So I'm not going to make it all the way to the 0 because I'm 6 away from the 0. I'm not going to make it there, so my answer is still going to be negative. But I'm going to be 4 closer, so I'm going to take 6 minus 4. So 6 minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I land at -2. Okay? In the other example, if I start at -2, and I'm going to add 3, well, I'm going to go past the 0, aren't I? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So my answer is going to be positive, and it's 3 minus 2 is how I'm going to figure out what my number is. Okay? Okay. Then for subtracting, there's one rule for subtracting. If it helps, and I'm going to write that down because this is an if it helps. If you already get how to subtract positive and negative numbers, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you're having trouble with it, then this is good. Okay, and that is you're going to add the opposite. And actually, this does come up when we're doing when we're working with variables this year, polynomials, where we're going to add the opposite, but it works for integers. So, for example, if I have -4 minus 3, okay? I can go to my number line here, and I'm starting at -4, and I'm subtracting 3, so I'm going 3 further down, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get to -7. So that's one way of thinking about it. But I can also do this as -4 plus -3. So I've changed the minus sign to a plus, and I've changed the +3 to a -3. So now I'm adding the opposite. Before I was subtracting 3, now I'm adding -3. So now I can use my addition rules. I've got 4 negatives and I've got 3 negatives. Everything I have is negative, and I have 7 of them, so my answer is -7. Okay? And one more example, 4 minus -5. So if I go to my number line here, and I'm starting at 4, and I want to subtract -5. Well, I know if I were subtracting 5, I would go down, but I'm subtracting -5, so I must need to go up. So I'm going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't quite get there, but I'm going to get to 9. Or I can think about adding the opposite. I can go 4 plus, and then the opposite of -5 is +5, and that equals 9. Okay? Sometimes when we do this, it's called the Haya method of subtracting, where you go like a karate chop. Haya. Okay, I'm waving my arms. I know you can't see me, but I'm waving my arms like karate chopping. So I go Haya. So I change that to plus positive. Or I can go Haya, and I change it to plus negative. The point is that you have to do 2 lines and you have to change 2 signs. So one is you change what's in between the 2 numbers, and then you change the sign of the second one. Okay? All right, hopefully that was helpful. Let's pop over to the review package and go down to the page where this starts. And these are just randomly generated questions for you to simplify. Just a reminder that this means divide. This fraction line means divide. So it's going to be -24 divided by -3. Well, that's a negative divided by a negative. That's going to give me a positive answer. 24 divided by 3 is 8. So my answer is 8. Okay, you don't need to put plus 8. You can if you want, but you know, mathematicians are lazy, so we generally don't do that. But if it helps you, go right ahead and do that. Okay. Check your answers on this section really carefully, because the mistake you're usually going to make is a minus sign there or not there when it should be. Okay. So go do that, and then come on back and we'll do some more order of operations work. Okay. Bye.